This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
And welcome to The Drive, and welcome to Matt Williamson for actually being here today.
How about that? Yeah. Had some family stuff. Not going to go into the details of it, but I'm going to disappear for a day or two in the near future as well. So thanks for holding down the fort.
We do what we need to do.
You got to do.
It's The Drive. The show must go on.
And believe it or not,
Somebody
we do take
said that.
vacations and stuff over the course of the year too, and we figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're here. We're continuing to look at everything that the season in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
And there's obviously some bad that happened, and everybody's focusing on that. There was also some
That
good.
didn't change while I was gone?
No, nothing changed. I've had a discussion earlier today on the X Twitter with E-Dog.
E-Dog, okay.
E-Dog goes to every Steelers game.
Yeah, okay.
You know who else does? Me.
Sober
for the last
too,
33 years, and I don't have a drink. I'm sitting in the press box. I'm watching the game analytically.
And you take notes, and
I take notes. I write about it. I write my thoughts, and I come on here. I talk about them. And so E-Dog's theory is that the Steelers, I'll quote him. When I watched us play good teams, we are inferior at almost every position on the field. They have enough to be average, but not close to being a top team. Drafting has been below the line.
Wow. Can't agree with that.
Now, E-Dog,
frankly,
I haven't coached Matt on this. Matt is a
first
former
I've heard
professional scout.
First I heard it. Let's start with drafting. I think there was a stretch there that the first rounders weren't great,
right?
Including Pickett, where you invested in, and that's the most important position. But if we're going to focus on this front office, and that's not a knock on Kevin, obviously, I think he's going to the Hall of Fame. It's been quite good. And yes, this class got injured a fair amount, though, too, but they're still looming. Those guys are still available. I do not look at this team and think this is a poor drafting franchise at all. And to be honest, this sounds like I'm, skirting the conversation. Drafting, it's hard to even say who the great drafting teams are or the bad drafting teams are. I mean, or this GM's so much better at drafting than this GM. A lot of it's just circumstances and how they work out and how they got injured or whatever.
I could love player X from here to the moon.
Yeah, right.
We want that guy, but guess what? We're picking 27th.
Yeah,
we're not going to have an opportunity to get this guy.
Right.
For example,
Mahomes.
They love Mahomes. They love J.J. Watt.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get.
They didn't pick in the top 10 that year.
You don't pick in the top 10 to get that guy. So you pivot and you take Cam Hayward instead.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You love Patrick Mahomes all you want. You're not going to get him, so you take T.J. Watt instead.
Yeah, and I definitely believe that if we go back to, I guess, Cam and since, people that are on this roster that were drafted, it's been an above-average drafting team. It's not the best. It's certainly not the worst.
Right.
It's a hard thing to pin down, too. Now, I definitely don't think they're outmanned at nearly every position.
No.
That's for sure. I mean, against these top teams.
I replied to E-Dog, if you took Patrick Mahomes, or you took Lamar Jackson, or you took Josh Allen, and you put them with this particular Steelers roster.
Yeah. I think they're still playing football.
I think they're still playing football, and I think they might be one of the favorites, if not the favorite, to win the Super Bowl.
Throw Burrow in there or whatever. I mean, you still could have lost to Lamar in Baltimore last week.
And we're going to see Josh Allen against Lamar this weekend.
That's what I was about to say. On Monday, we're going to hear what a loser Lamar or Allen is and how they stink and what a choker they are. And it's going to make me insane. Even if said player gets sacked 8 times and throws 5 picks, we're going to hear about what losers they are and they can never win and they need to move on. We're going to hear that on Monday, and I'm going to lose my mind. Yeah, I mean, they're ridiculous football players.
Or the winner of that game, everybody's going to say, see, he's the MVP.
Right. And, oh, by the way, all the ballots are cast.
Right.
I mean, that doesn't matter at all. But, yeah, I mean, those guys give you such a better chance to compete. That's not to say, well, it's okay just to get beat bad by the Ravens. No, that was not a good performance.
Right.
And this
Nobody's
stretch has not been a great performance. But to win Super Bowls, you almost have to have one of those guys. Like, do I think Goff could win a Super Bowl this year? Yeah. But can he win 3 of the next 5? No. I mean, could Allen win 3 of the next 5? Yeah, but unfortunately he's in the AFC, and those guys have to disappear to some degree, or he has to go past them. Yeah, I absolutely believe, though, in a nutshell, since he was in the playoffs, take Burrow, put him on the Steelers. They're one of the best teams in the league, if not number one.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. With the current roster.
Right. Take Wilson out, that quarterback in, I'll put them against anybody in the league.
Right.
Easily.
Because you've now got a top 5 quarterback.
Because they're superstar difference maker.
It's the most important position in football. To your point, doesn't mean that you can't win without a superstar at that position. Again, Goff's a good player. He's not a great player.
Mm-hmm.
Hurts is a good player. He's not a great player.
Right.
Jaden Daniels, for as good as he's been this year, is a good player. He's not a great player yet. C.J. Stroud's not a great player yet. Mm-hmm. He's not on the level with those guys. But you've gotten to this point. Now, to your point, 3 of those guys happen to be in the AFC.
And 2 in the division.
Yeah, and 2 in the division, which doesn't make things
makes your road
easy.
A little more difficult than the Bears or
right.
The Falcons or whatever. What was I going to say on that? Like, Hurts is a great example. I can make a case he's a top 10 quarterback. No way he's a top 5, but he's not far off of 10. Maybe he's 11 if we go through it, or 12 or whatever. He's a good player. He's going to, if the Eagles win the next 2 games, in all those upcoming games, they're going to be on the short end of the quarterback battle. I mean, Stafford, if you got to put a check mark in one column, I'm giving it to Stafford. And if they win, even against Daniels or Goff, I'm giving the check mark to the other guy. Whoever they play in the Super Bowl, I'm definitely giving it to the AFC guy.
Unless it's Stroud.
I would still take Stroud. If Stroud got there, then I'm taking Stroud. Okay. You know what
Good
I mean?
point by you. Yeah. Good point by you.
I don't like his chances, but my tune would change if he wins 3 playoff games.
But they're closer than
the other 3 monsters. Can the Eagles win the Super Bowl? I think the answer is yes, but their road's harder.
Right. It's harder to do when you don't have that guy.
And
because
I do think
guy changes everything.
And quarterback aside, I'll take that roster over every one of them. And let's say you put Mahomes on the Eagles. Whoa. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's the 70 Steelers. That's, Aikman and Montana's Niners. I mean, that's an all-time great team. That's Brady's best team, Any of those superheroes on the best roster like that is almost unbeatable to me, unless you get a bounce or two,
Yeah. That's the thing that drives me crazy about some of the stuff that's thrown around out there.
Mm-hmm.
The Steelers roster stinks.
Yeah.
The coaching staff stinks. How the hell did they win 10 games in each of the last 2 seasons?
And look at how many teams lost 10 games.
Right.
That stinks. I mean, that's one of the things that bothers me, too. We just talked about how it's going to make me crazy that whoever loses the Buffalo Ravens game, that guy's a loser, no chance ever going to win, they're a bum, even though they're 26 or 27 years old or whatever. But the other thing, too, is everyone has to either be awesome or stinks. Like 99% of the time, it's neither. And have a clue of who really does stink in this league. The Raiders stink. The Titans stink. The Browns stink. Steelers aren't in that group, and that group is huge. And they're not even in the group ahead of those guys. The Bears and those type of teams.
Yeah.
Right.
It just, it's one. You can't have a bad coaching staff and a bad roster and win 10 games in this league. You just can't.
No, I don't think you can either.
It's an impossibility.
Especially, maybe the Bengals could. Maybe
but
the Chiefs
got
could.
The guy.
Maybe the Bills could.
Right.
I mean, the Bills roster's not that great. The Bills roster, quarterback aside, might be inferior to the Steelers.
Which was why, to me, Josh Allen is the MVP of the league.
It's a great point. Right. I mean, the Chiefs have a really good roster, but they have holes. These other teams aren't perfect on, top to bottom. You're outmatched at every position. No chance.
Yeah. So, you have to look at it from a little perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Just have some perspective on this. And I know everybody's still mad and upset about, the way the season went down, and I get it. I get it 100%.
Sure.
But the Steelers do not stink. The coaching staff does not stink.
Right.
They haven't gotten – you don't win as many games as they've won the last few years stinking.
Not knowing what you're doing.
Not knowing how to do this. And yes, you can be upset that you fell short. Mike Tomlin upset that they fell short.
Everybody that works in that building is upset, right?
Absolutely.
Sure.
And Was he wrong when he said, I thought we had a better team or team better prepared or better capable of competing against those teams? I don't think so.
No, I think that's
this
a
year's
proper
roster
analysis, right?
This year's roster was better than last year's roster.
I do too. And as an organization, I think they're going forward, not backwards.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's still work
everyone
to
thinks
be done.
they're just stuck in purgatory. You're never stuck. You're always moving one way or another.
One way or the other.
Right.
And to me, this team is moving in a proper direction because you don't have the quarterback yet, but what you can do when you don't have the quarterback or one of those quarterbacks, I should say.
Yeah.
All right, you've got quarterbacks that you can win with.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have to continue to build around those guys.
Yeah.
And you do that by acquiring more talent.
Mm-hmm.
And that would include, you're going to have to upgrade your wide receiver position first and foremost.
Playmakers, right? No doubt.
You need playmakers.
So I don't know enough about NBA, and if this is an unfair question, don't answer it. But when Jordan was in the height of his powers, if you gave him 4, not losers, not the 4 of us. I mean, I'm talking like, and you were okay in your day, I'm sure, but
not to that level, but
4 competent average starters.
Yeah.
Do they win titles? Or at least not as many.
I don't know if they win titles, but they compete for them. You could make the argument at certain times, in his career or in LeBron James' career,
any of those studs,
they carried a team, but it's only 5 guys on.
I know it's
a
different
floor.
world.
It's a different world.
But a quarterback touches the ball every time and distributes to the other 5 guys. You know what I mean? It's close to me, or like a dominant pitcher isn't because they're off every 3 or 4 days or whatever. One hitter's not going to do it. Just Gretzky or Lemieux is not going to do that. You're on the ice.
But that's why quarterback is the most important position in sports. It just is.
It is.
But there are ways to win without having that guy, and the best way to win without having that guy is to build a as good a roster as anybody in the league. And you can make the argument that the Philadelphia Eagles or the Detroit Lions have done that.
And that's what I was about to say, is just flip it, is, okay, let's take Wilson out and Fields, or all the Steelers quarterbacks leave town, and you put Goff or Hurts here. You still lose the Ravens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're probably still in the same spot. I'd like those guys better than these guys, but you're not, wow, you're one receiver away from being the best team in the league. You still got to beat Mahomes and Allen, and it always goes back to that.
Yeah.
Which is not much fun.
It's not much fun, but again, I think there are ways to do it. But you've got to build a complete roster.
Mm-hmm.
And, as much as I liked, what the Steelers...
And you have to have some injury luck late in the year and stuff like that,
the
too.
ball has to bounce your way. I mean, think about how close they were in each one of those losses down the stretch.
Mm-hmm.
The last game notwithstanding, where there was a play here or a play there at certain times that could have changed the outcome of that game.
Mm-hmm. Or the flow of it, for sure.
Or the flow of it.
Yeah.
You were tied, with Baltimore down there at 17-all in that game. If George Pickens holds on to the ball down the sideline against the Bengals, you probably end up going in and winning that game.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know because you don't know what's going to happen after that.
Yeah.
But
there's a million bounds. I mean, even look at the Chiefs season. They're playing better, well, at least last we saw them, than probably at any point this year. And I expect them to this upcoming weekend. Time off. They were really, really impressive on Christmas. But they got some bounces, too. Or even Washington. Maybe Jaden Daniels is a magician. But they've gotten some bounces this year, too. I mean, a Hail Mary, and, when the ball ganks off an upright and goes in.
Or Baker Mayfield does a play fake that he's done 150 times this season, and it bangs off the receiver's hip and it turns into a fumble.
Yeah, it wasn't the defense doing the wonderful
They didn't do anything.
Thing. Right, exactly. So you got to take advantage of these things. And in baseball, with well over 100 games, okay, that game comes and goes and you don't even notice. Even if it's game 5 of the World Series, you still could win the last 2 or whatever. In football, you're going to pay for it,
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't think they're as far away as some people seem to think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the roster is barren of talent.
Like, I don't think it's obscene to say this time next year they're still alive.
No, not at all.
Right. If the offseason goes well, they could still be alive at this time next year.
Yeah.
Then let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah. I think we've identified some places where they can improve and get better.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, wide receiver being a key one. cornerback.
Mm-hmm.
I think, getting somebody who could play press man opposite.
I think we go a long way. Right.
Joey Porter Jr. would go a long way. Can they upgrade the defensive line? Yeah, but it's still a pretty good defensive line.
Yeah. It's not like it's a desperate need, but it'd be nice to invest in it.
Yeah.
Get a young guy with size. But even like the O-line, without investing in it, could be better next year.
Yeah, you're allowed to get better.
Right. Freiermuth and Washington, like Darnell Washington got better this year, without investing in anher tight end necessarily. So we'll see. But they're not the worst in the league. They're not outmanned at every position against every good team all the time.
To be fair,
forever,
E-Dog said nearly every position.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't even know that I would agree with that. I mean, if we went down the rosters with the teams that are still alive, the Steelers would be better at several positions.
Oh, yeah. And this I don't besmudge fans for because they're fans and they have every right to do it. But you don't know the other teams as well as we do. You just don't. And why would you? You have a job and you have a life and you don't do this 24 hours like we do.
This is what we do 24 hours a day.
Like the Chiefs might win the Super Bowl, but I wouldn't trade I'd trade their tackles for 30 different groups in the league.
Yeah. They're going to start Joe Thuney. They're going to start Joe Thuney at left tackle again this weekend.
Are they?
In a divisional championship game, and they've had several weeks to look at this, and
made that decision.
Everybody's now healthy for them, and they've made the decision to kick Thuney.
Which makes them bad at left guard,
right?
But I mean, like there's position groups that aren't great in all these teams.
Yeah, so it just is what it is, and to me, it's all about playing your best ball at the right time. The Steelers haven't done that; they need to figure out a way to do that. But it's also how your schedule breaks. How
schedule didn't do me any favor.
How you stay away from injuries at key moments and things of that nature. It all plays into it. I mean, oftentimes in the NFL, the best team doesn't win the Super Bowl.
Right. I mean, this will sound blasphemous, but 4 Super Bowls in 6 years, I bet they got a bounce or two. Yeah. I mean, the Raiders were pretty good too. They're talking about Stabler and those guys losers. If there was social media back then, that's what we'd be saying. I don't know. I mean, a lot of these quarterbacks too, man, that guy's never going to win the big one. And because for 6 years he doesn't. And then when he's 29, he wins 2 of the next 4.
Well, that's another.
That happens a lot.
I see this one thrown around a lot, that the Steelers wasted Ben Roethlisberger's last 10 years because they only made it to 1 AFC championship in those 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wouldn't use the word wasted.
Wasted is a...
That means like they didn't try to put the best roster around him.
Yeah.
Like, oh, man, we're going to try... Yeah, Ben's in the height of his powers, but here we're going to tank for Tua this year. That's wasting.
Yeah.
Or what the Colts did with Andrew Luck. Like, get him a line. You know what I mean? At least understand...
You want to talk about some ridiculously bad luck going into the playoffs?
Mm-hmm.
In a bunch of those years.
Yeah.
I mean, no Le'Veon Bell in 2 of those playoff runs.
Who was kind of the focal point. I mean, not that the other.
He was certainly a top 3 running back in the league.
It would be like Henry being out for this game.
Yeah,
I mean, it would be right. Or Barkley
missing AB after the Cincinnati game when you go to Denver. Yeah, kind of a big deal.
Sure.
Roethlisberger that year couldn't raise his arm above his shoulder going into that game against Denver. Mm-hmm. They were also missing Cam Hayward the year that they went to the AFC Championship that year, and then Bell got hurt in the AFC Championship. I mean, you could look at that stretch and say, well, they should have won, a Super Bowl with the quote unquote the Killer Bees. And okay, I understand that, but they didn't because they had poor luck with injuries at bad times.
And Tom Brady exists.
Existed.
Mm-hmm. As did Peyton Manning and other good players too. Like, they're all getting paid as well.
Yeah. And as good as Ben was, and he's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
No argument, right?
He wasn't those guys.
They were better.
They were better.
He was. Maybe he's. I'm trying to put it in today's terms. I think there's those 4 unbelievable guys. Who's number 5? Is that Stafford? Is it Herbert? Who do you like? He's probably a little better than that 5th guy, but he's not Mahomes or Allen. I mean, those guys were crazy special.
And he would tell you that. I wasn't as good at Brady. I mean, Manning was, he would tell you that. I've heard him say it before. Mm-hmm. So it is what it is.
Yeah. That's sports.
Yeah.
And football's a little more of a microscope.
Absolutely. Let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I'll be back with more right after this. And welcome back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, just to kind of drive home what we were talking about there, Seth Walters put together a list. I don't know if you saw this on ESPN today.
I clicked on it, but I've not read it yet. It's going to be my weekend reading.
The
agenda.
top 100 real NFL MVP candidates for the 2024 season.
Yeah. I'm curious. I think Seth does really good work. He's analytically based, but take that for what you want if you're not an analytics person, but he's more well-rounded than that as well. I think he does really good work. Do you want to buzz through it?
Yeah, let's buzz through it because there are some Steelers mentioned here in the top 100 players, and these are the MVP candidates based on how they played this year.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so number one, we're going to start at the top.
Sure.
Josh Allen.
Okay. I'm sure him and Lamar are right neck and neck, I would imagine.
Number two is Lamar Jackson.
Okay, that's fine.
Number three, Joe Burrow.
I agree with that, too. He would be my third choice. Imagine where they would have been without him.
Number four, Jaden Daniels.
Fair. I said on a different podcast, I'm not by any way anointing that guy, but if I think he has a chance, and this is the ultimate compliment, to be in that top four. I mean,
every year.
He has a chance. I mean, that would be an amazing accomplishment, but he could be that guy.
Number five, Patrick Mahomes.
Pretty fair. Down year for him statistically, but he's still pretty important.
Number six, Justin Herbert.
Okay. They would have been miserable without him, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Number seven, Jared Goff.
Fair. About halfway through the season, he was getting MVP talk, rightfully so.
What do we notice about that?
Well, a lot of quarterbacks.
They're all quarterbacks.
The top when do we not get
all
to a quarterback?
quarterbacks?
Right.
All quarterbacks.
And you could really probably go 20 deep. I mean, it wouldn't be much fun.
Yeah.
But you could probably go 20 deep.
Number eight, we finally get to non-quarterback, and that's Jamar Chase.
Fair. I think I'd put him ahead of like Barkley or Henry in terms of MVP, not Offensive Player of the Year. I kind of look at those differently. But the guy won Triple Crown.
Number nine, Justin Jefferson.
It's funny, as soon as you said Chase, I'm like, I'm sure Jefferson's the next receiver. But is Jefferson more valuable than Darnold? You know, like
Jefferson averaged 100 yards receiving per game last season when they had six different guys starting at quarterback.
Off the street and all that. I mean, I think he's way better than Darnold. But, like, I had this conversation with my Niners co-host. He's like, I would much rather McCaffrey be out of the game than Purdy, even though McCaffrey's way better at what he does. At the height of their powers, you know what I mean?
So Jefferson averaged 2.6 yards per route run.
It's a big number, yeah.
Chase averaged 2.5.
Okay. I get it. Yeah.
And he was better against man coverage, 2.5 versus 2.2 than Chase.
Okay.
Chase played with a superior quarterback.
Without question.
Yeah.
I do think Jefferson missed 2 or 3 games, though.
This year, he didn't miss any.
No, okay. Oh, okay, he didn't.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah.
Number 10, Baker Mayfield.
I'm also interested in who the third receiver is going to be because those two are probably way above everybody else. Yeah, and Mayfield should be there, too.
11, Kyler Murray.
Didn't see that coming.
I didn't either.
I mean, you could go quarterbacks like crazy.
Yeah.
Any quarterback you say wouldn't shock me. Ahead of like Jordan Love?
He missed time.
Yeah, I don't know how much they weigh that. Interesting.
12, Trey Hendrickson.
See, I don't think he's the most. That's 3
Tell
Bengals.
Me 3 Bengals in the top 12? Come on, man.
I was going to take it the other way. First off, he wouldn't be my defensive choice. But if you have 3 of the top most valuable players,
And you went 9 and 8.
How bad is that roster?
Yeah.
Like, how many starters do they need?
That,
Higgins will
folks,
probably be on the list.
Goes back to what we were just talking
That's where I
about in
was
terms of
going.
overall roster build.
Right. Like, their roster is junk. I mean, if you can't get into the playoffs with Burrow, end of sentence,
Burrow,
let alone those other
Chase
two.
and Hendrickson, who both had tremendous seasons.
Right. Like, if opening day, before anyone had kicked off, you told me Burrow, Chase, and Hendrickson are all going to be in the top 12, I'm betting every over on the planet on the Bengals. Like, they must be the best team we've ever seen. That's how bad the rest of their roster is.
Yeah.
And how much work they have to do this offseason.
13, Myles Garrett.
Okay. I would have Garrett ahead of Henderson. But
14, Jalen Hurts.
Okay.
15, Lane Johnson. I can't go there.
I think he's the best offensive lineman on the planet.
I don't know if I agree with you on that.
To me.
I don't know if I agree with you on that. I think he's a great player. The best.
I think he might be the best right tackle that ever lived. mean, he's getting to that point. His worst game was against TJ, which they left him alone, and they kind of battled to a draw. He's a superstar. I don't know how valuable you put him on.
Here's what bothers me about that game. Now, I understand one of those sacks was not on him. It was I got
to remember the details, but yeah.
But I'm watching their playoff game last week, and they're talking about how Lane Johnson didn't allow a single sack this year.
Oh, I know. I saw that too. Like, that's nuts, right?
That's not true.
A lot of those kind of stats to me aren't right.
Yeah.
You don't know the protections. You don't know if you're helping and chipping your buddy and that kind of stuff too. It's like
that's like when they say somebody shut out TJ Watt.
Yeah.
No, he didn't.
No, not he.
Not he.
Maybe they did.
They did, but
Five
he
people
didn't.
got involved.
Yeah. Number 16, Chris Jones.
I'm cool with that.
Now, here's the thing. I had my opening monologue yesterday. I'm sure you didn't watch the show.
I probably put Cam ahead of him. I have not yet, no.
All right. Chris Jones had 5 sacks this year.
Yeah, it's low.
And people have been talking about how TJ Watt he wasn't very good this year because he only had 11.5 sacks. Which shows you how far
how much did Hendrickson have to lead the league?
17, I think.
Was it? I say you got a lot at the end, obviously.
He had 3 at the end, yeah.
Yeah.
But it shows you how those players have raised the bar for expectations. For example, TJ Watt's 11.5 sacks would have led the Steelers in sacks 26 times since 1982.
That doesn't surprise me, yeah. But it's not 20, so people will lose their mind, right?
Yeah. Anyways, Chris Jones had 5 sacks this year. He's number 16 on this list.
I might have put Hayward ahead of Jones, just amongst defensive tackles.
17, Tristan Wirfs, who I would say is the best offensive lineman.
Yeah, he's great.
18, A.J. Brown.
So he's the third receiver.
And the third Eagle, I should say.
Hurts is already on there, too, huh? None of them super high, but still that's
None of them are named Saquon
and
Barkley.
Hasn't shown up yet. He will soon. I guess Brown will be my third receiver. 19,
Micah Parsons.
He was the best defensive player on the planet post-injury, just like Hutchinson was the best pre-injury. But it's not 17 games.
Right. 20, Patrick Surtain.
Probably going to win Defense Player of the Year. I mean, he's first defensive back. I don't know how much they weigh position value.
I think
obviously they do a lot.
Position must matter because 21 and 22 are Henry and Barkley.
Okay. Henry ahead of Barkley.
Yeah. I don't know how you can measure what those guys mean to their quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm. I mean, clearly they bumped good teams into great teams.
Yeah.
Just their addition.
Yeah. But Barkley would be the 4th Eagle in the top 22 players.
I think that's the best roster in the league.
23, another Eagle.
Wow.
Zach Bond.
I say, is it Bond? Okay, wow. First linebacker.
24, Jordan Love.
Which isn't where he needs to be.
No.
I mean, he can't be behind Baker Mayfield.
25 is C.D. Lamb.
Fair.
26, Brock Purdy.
Doesn't seem like, I mean, I guess it's a chicken or egg thing, but Myles Garrett's like one of the only ones off the garbage teams. Which, I mean, obviously, if you're valuable, you bring up the whole ship. But there's also got to be some great players on horrible teams. Dexter Lawrence, if he had stayed healthy, or
27, T.J. Watt. What a bad season he had.
I think I'd have Cam ahead of him, but that's still low for Watt.
Yeah. 28, Fred Warner.
Still had a great year, but played broken ankle most of the year.
29, Trent McDuffie.
Mm-hmm. He's doing more outside stuff, too.
30, Puka Nacua.
He's real. I used to think he was kind of a fabrication. He's real.
31 is Kyle Hamilton. 32, Malik Neighbors. There's your third receiver.
First rookie, right?
No, Jaden Daniels.
Daniels, yeah.
33, Sam Darnold. 34, Matthew Stafford. I would disagree with
he'd be higher
Stafford
for me.
Being that low.
Yeah, he'd be up ahead of Baker probably.
35, George Kittle.
I think he was the best tight end in the league when you factor in blocking too.
36, Jahmyr Gibbs. 37, Penei Sewell. 38, Danielle Hunter. 39, Brian Thomas. 40, Drake London. 41, Xavier McKinney. 42, Derwin James.
These are the who-whos of, Pro Bowl type guys.
43, Deion Dawkins.
Okay.
The third most impactful offensive tackle in the league. And I guess Sewell was on there too.
So he's fourth. That does seem too high.
44, Leonard Williams.
He had a great year.
45, Jonathan Greenard. 46, Amon-Ra St. Brown. 47, Zach Allen. So you're telling me Cam Hayward's the fifth best defensive tackle.
I have no problem with Allen being there at all, but Hayward would have been number 1 amongst defensive tackles for me.
48, Lad McConkey.
Okay. Boy, a lot of good rookie receivers.
49, Cam Hayward.
That's low.
50, Derek Stingley.
That might be low. That's a second corner, I think.
Yeah. 51, Garrett Bowles. I'm sorry. He's average.
Yeah, it's a good line, but I would have
he's not their best player.
Then I say Minert's ahead of him.
Yeah. Bijan
But
Robinson.
They haven't listed a guard or center yet.
Yeah. 52 is Bijan Robinson. 53, Trey McBride. I don't know how he can be one of the most impactful players in the league and have 1 touchdown, but
He's ahead of Bowers.
Yeah.
That's a little surprising.
54, Jordan Mailata. 55, Creed Humphrey. 56, Nico Collins.
Missed time, but he'd be higher. He could maybe be the third receiver.
57, we finally get we've had our second bill. This is our third bill. Christian Benford.
Much better corner than people realize. He's probably their best defensive player.
58 is Brock Bowers. 59, Quentin Nelson, your first guard.
Yeah, I don't think he had that kind of year.
60, Jesse Bates. 61, Kirby Joseph. 62, Brian Burns. 63, Christian Gonzalez. He was really impactful on that 3-win Patriots team.
He's awesome. But I don't know how you judge him on the terrible teams.
Yeah. 64, Jared Verse. 65, Mike Evans. 66, Jeffrey Simmons.
I would say Simmons was one I was thinking of. He's easily the best Titan, but where do you put him?
67 is Joe Thuney. 68, Brian Branch. 69, Joe Alt.
A little early.
A little early for
Slater
that.
had a better year than Alt.
Yeah. 70, Brian O'Neill.
Pretty good variety of Lions, though. You mentioned Branch there.
A lot of Lions, yeah.
Surprising, yeah.
71, Marlon Humphrey. 72, Laramie Tunsil. I'm sorry. He was bad this year.
He's been a great player, but you can't put it with Texans linemen on there. They were hideous.
He led the league in penalties.
Yeah. And he looks like, I don't know who their O-line coach is, but he should be worried about his job.
73, DeForest Buckner. 74, Jalen Carter.
Oh, Carter would be higher than that.
75, Nick Bosa. 76, Quinn Miners. 77, Rashawn Slater. 78, Will Anderson. 79, Calais Campbell.
Good for him.
80, Andrew Van Ginkel.
Some people thought he was defensive MVP, which I think is nuts, but that's a little low. He made a lot of plays.
81, Tyler Smith. 82, Nick Benito.
He had a good year, too.
83, Vita Vea. 84, Bucky Irving. 85, Devin Witherspoon. 86, Dexter Lawrence, all the way down at 86.
Yeah, I was thinking about him and Hutchinson. Neither one mentioned, but Lawrence played a lot more than Hutchinson. 87,
Tyler Linderbaum.
Second center?
Yeah.
I think he's the second center right now.
I don't think he is.
I think Ragnow's right there.
I'd take
Frazier's
Ragnow.
right on their heels, too, now.
88, Roquan Smith.
First half of the year was not
rough
at all.
89, Max Crosby, all the way down at 89.
How many games did he miss at the end? 4 or 5?
Something like that, yeah.
Still was pretty awesome, though, for that low.
90, Chris Boswell.
Wow.
The only kicker on the list.
Yeah, I mean, he scored a lot of points. That's kind of the goal here.
91, Chris Lindstrom. 92, Brandon Jones.
Lindstrom's really interesting. Like, if you listen to the O-line nerds, they either love him or hate him because Cam Hayward would take Lindstrom and throw him into the seats. But he can block 30 yards downfield like a sprinter, too.
Yeah.
It just depends what you're doing with him.
92 is Brandon Jones.
Good year.
93, Quinnen Williams. 94, Quinyon Mitchell. 95, Zay Flowers.
Doesn't sound like he's going to play again this week.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah.
96, Charles Cross.
Good player. He's another one that's a little finesse-ish.
Yeah. 97, Buda Baker. 98, Spencer Brown. So both Bills' offensive tackles on the list.
Yeah, Spencer Brown's a much improved player.
99 is Jalen Johnson. And 100, Nakobe Dean.
Out for the remainder of the year.
Yeah.
But a lot of Eagles.
A lot of Eagles on that list. A lot of Lions.
I'm trying to think of 7 or 8 Eagles. Mitchell, both linebackers. Carter, both tackles. Saquon, Brown, Hurts. Might be 10.
Yeah.
Like that. There's a lot. I bet they led the league.
Yeah.
That's why they're right in the hunt of it, even though they don't have one of those special quarterbacks.
What was not listed on that list? A Steelers quarterback.
I was going to say about 600 players.
Yeah, well, more than that.
Right,
but,
right. I don't know if they'd still be alive, but if they would have a quarterback on the list, whoever the last one was, I don't even know who that was. I mean, probably 80th overall. I mean,
I don't even think all the quarterbacks that were on here were listed early.
I think Love might have been the last one you mentioned.
I'm just going back through it here. Stafford was the last guy listed at 34.
Love was later than that.
I think so, but let me see here.
I guess you're either on the list or you're not in terms of quarterback world.
No, that was
Stafford was the last?
Stafford was the last guy listed.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I
Steelers
agree.
with Stafford would be really, really good. Again, you still may have lost in Baltimore.
Right.
I mean, the Chiefs might have lost in Baltimore. I mean, that's a brutal situation, but there'd be a lot different tone.
Yeah.
And I don't think Wilson was terrible this year
No,
either. You know, right.
Nor Fields.
Right. That wasn't Duck or,
right.
Pickett at his worst or, right.
Yeah, you had improved quarterback play. You had you got 21 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and you had another 7 rushing touchdowns out of your quarterback position.
It's a lot more production than you've gotten in a while.
Yeah. I mean, it just is.
No, it is.
You got 28 touchdowns out of the quarterback position and 6 interceptions.
Yeah. And it wasn't like a lot of negative came with it.
Yeah. So, but
how many Steelers were on the list?
3.
Boz, Hayward, Watt.
That was it.
Need to get an offensive guy on there.
Need to get some offensive players on there. You could make an argument that if Pickens hadn't missed some time, did he have a better season than Zay Flowers? Maybe.
I would say yes.
Yeah.
I know Flowers went to the Pro Bowl and Pickens didn't.
But Flowers only scored 4 touchdowns.
Right. Yeah.
It's not like he was this dynamic playmaker.
Frazier might have been my next center. I'm just talking about offensive players.
Yeah.
Pretty tough for a tight end to get on there. There's only like 3.
Yeah.
Guards aren't getting on there. Yeah.
Yeah. But they do have some young guys. Could you make a case for Joey Porter Jr.?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I'm thinking about like next year. What if Fautanu, Frazier, Porter, Pickens, 3 of those 4 are on there?
Okay.
Now you're cooking.
That means you had a better season.
And your young guys are on there.
Yeah.
And Cam and Watt didn't fall off, or
Yeah. Or maybe Minkah Fitzpatrick's back.
Minkah could probably still be on there now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that's where they're at. I mean, I don't think they're far away as some people seem to suggest. I just think they need more.
Yeah.
More. Give me more.
But it's not the worst roster in the league.
No, it's not the worst roster. There's some teams that didn't have anybody on here.
Oh, there's tons that had 1 or 2.
Yeah.
I mean, the Titans had 1. The Raiders had 2. I'm just trying to think of
the Browns had 1.
They had 1 high and then
nothing.
I don't even know who their next guy would be.
Yeah.
Maybe JOK if he stays healthy or Ward, but I don't think they were 101.
No. Yeah. So that's where they're at. Anyways,
Bengals are kind of the funniest one.
Yeah, 3 guys really high and then nothing else.
I'm sure Higgins would have come if they ranked the top 500. Higgins probably wouldn't be that far off, but then the next guy would have been really far off.
Yeah,
really far off.
Really far off.
Yeah.
That was Seth Walder from ESPN Analytics. That's how he looked at the MVP award.
Mm-hmm.
Who was the most valuable? He wasn't necessarily looking at them in terms of overall play. And that was obvious.
Position had a ton to do with it.
Position had a ton to do with it.
Barkley's 20th or whatever.
Kyler Murray's ahead of
ahead
some
of
of those
Barkley.
guys.
Right,
but Kyler Murray was very valuable to that Arizona Cardinals team.
Right. If they would have had Dobbs all year, they may not have won a game.
Right.
So that doesn't mean that he's the best quarterback in the league.
No.
But right.
Anyways, let's get to a break. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And welcome back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and this is The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. And Matt, news comes out today that Steelers defensive backs coach Grady Brown interviewed for the defensive coordinator position with the Atlanta Falcons.
Oh, okay. I didn't know any of that news. Okay. Good for him. I hope he gets a job. I mean, that's wonderful. I this time of year, I always preface it because I've been in buildings. Commenting on assistant coaches, coordinators is hard. Commenting on assistant coaches is nearly impossible, even if it's me there a lot, you there every day. It's hard.
You're not in the meeting rooms.
You're not in the meeting room.
Yeah.
You don't know what his job was on Wednesday of Eagles week. You know what I mean? Like they all have their specific jobs or what was asked of them, or you can say, well, he turned Porter into a good player, or he got a lot out of this guy. But he's also not alone in that too. You know, some of it's scheme and coordinator and all those things. But good. I mean, that's what you want.
And if that were to happen, you would get a compensatory third-round pick back.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that applied to coordinators.
That applies to coordinators, yes.
Oh, okay. Great. Well, that'd be even better.
If it's a head coach, you get 2, or GM, you get 2.
2/3.
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's
because he's a minority vote.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And I've been very impressed with Grady Brown over the years. He actually
heard good things.
He actually got a chance to be the defensive coordinator a couple years ago at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah. Okay.
So there was that opportunity, and
that's not a throwaway week
either.
That's a very important I don't necessarily care if you're not going to scheme up the opponent in Senior Bowl week.
But you're putting together the practice schedule. And
yeah. You do a lot of head coach type of stuff, and please present these guys so we can evaluate them best.
Right.
You know what I mean? Don't run a bunch of zone and during the week, and that's not an easy job.
No, it isn't. So good luck to Grady Brown with that one. Of course, we also know Arthur Smith is interviewed for the Jets and the Bills.
Would that comp pick be in this upcoming draft?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I would think
the hiring comes now, so when they hand out those compensatory
they already know.
picks,
They
know.
It's not like free agency's a year of difference,
And as I mentioned yesterday, Sheldon White also interviewed for the Raiders GM job.
Oh, did he?
So
okay.
Their director of pro personnel. So
he's got a great reputation too.
Again, for all these, one of the things that I hear the most
terrible staff,
terrible this, terrible that. Mike Tomlin coaching tree, blah blah blah. He actually has guys being interviewed now.
Yeah.
By other teams.
I mean, people are like,
doesn't mean they got the job, but people are interested.
What makes me a little crazy too, just to go back a step, Arthur Smith's exactly like Matt Canada. Nothing's ever changed. It's still going to be the terrible offense. Like, you don't know. You really just don't know what you're talking about. You really don't. And the league doesn't agree with you at all.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah. You don't get.
I don't know that he's going to be a head coach this year.
No. But you don't get 2 head coaching interviews because you stunk.
Or a head coaching job, period.
Yeah.
Right.
Nobody's offering. Again, Lou Anarumo not only lost his job this offseason, but he's not getting any head coaching interviews.
No.
They were bad.
They were bad, right. I wonder if I assume he'll be a DC somewhere.
Somewhere.
Yeah,
somewhere. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't know from a day-to-day basis. I mean, I watch practice. That doesn't mean I know exactly, and I'm at every game.
Sure,
but
in training camp and around these guys. And
that doesn't mean that I know exactly what every guy does.
It's really hard.
And you find things out, or you talk to, that's why one of the things that I like to do at training camp is have a private conversation, either on or off the record, with every assistant coach on the that's there, especially the new guys. I want to get to know them a little bit.
I'm not speaking for you, but I'm sure you could be like, that guy's more impressive than that guy, or this guy's more impressive. Like, I bet he has a bright future. Yeah. Like, man, he comes across well, or especially the off the record stuff.
And one of the things when people talk about the quote unquote Mike Tomlin coaching tree, they never want to give him credit for Bruce Arians. Now, you could say, well, he had Bruce Arians on his roster, or he was on the team when he came over. Yeah, but Tomlin promoted him to offensive coordinator.
Yeah, you could have fired him, and it would have looked a lot worse.
He was the wide receivers coach when Bill Cowher left.
Yeah,
and Tomlin said, "No, I like that. We're going to promote him to offensive coordinator."
He was the bright young mind ascending up the coaching ranks.
And I know there's some stuff out there now because there was a recent, 30 for 30 or whatever it is, on Arians.
Yeah,
and he talked about how he was let go in Pittsburgh. That was a decision made at the top of the pyramid, that they wanted Ben Roethlisberger protected better, and Arians wouldn't do it.
Arians seems like I wasn't around the team as much back then. He seems like an easy guy to root for. They had success.
He's a good guy, and he was a good coordinator.
Yeah, and he had success with the Cardinals, and he's had a good coaching career, assuming he's probably done. Now, he got Luck, Palmer, and Ben beat up. And people don't like that are writing the checks. I mean, you want these guys to last as humanly possible, but that is a weakness of Arians' scheme. I mean, that's just We're not gonna keep a six.
They didn't
guy
win in Tampa Bay until they decided to do it Tom Brady's way, because Tom Brady didn't want to take all those hits either.
No, he's getting the ball out quicker. We're not doing 7-step drops with 5-man protections over and over and over. And thankfully for Ben especially, but even Luck and Palmer, they're big, strong dudes. I mean, Luck is a big, powerful person that could handle a beating, but he got beat.
But he didn't. Yeah,
Yeah, right.
He
just walked away.
Yeah, would Ben Roethlisberger have still been playing in 2017 or 2016? You know, if Arians had, maybe not. Yeah,
I mean, Luck might still be playing. He chose to leave. He was not retired.
Tired of getting,
he got tired of it. Right.
You know, so there's some of that too. You know, but nobody wants to give Tomlin credit for Bruce Arians. And the other thing about that particular conversation is how many of Tomlin's assistants have been older guys.
Yeah.
Guys who had been around the game, you know, forever. And they weren't interested in being head coaches. They weren't viewed as that. They were, you know, Dick LeBeau had already been there and done that.
Right.
He wasn't going to go back and be a head coach again. Otherwise, if Dick LeBeau, when they were putting together the defenses that they were putting together during his run here, if he'd have been 15 years younger,
he'd have been a whiz kid.
He'd have been a whiz kid, and Dick LeBeau's getting, and he had never been a head coach before. Somebody was coming in to hire Dick LeBeau.
He'd been hired. He'd have been right this time of year. He'd be doing 5 head coaching interviews.
Absolutely,
for sure. Much like the Lions DC is.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's exactly how it would be. The other thing, people never think of this, but there's a human element to it. Unlike any organization in the history of sports, there's been 3 head coaches here. And maybe I'm not making fun of running back coaches or tight end coaches, but they're lower on the chain of command than the quarterback coach or whatever. Being the running back coach or the tight end coach or even the quarterback coach in Pittsburgh, instead of moving your family all over the country, might be worth just sticking here. You know what I mean? Like, Spagnuolo's almost like LeBeau. Does he really want to start over and be a head coach for a terrible organization? Or does the linebacker coach for Kansas City want to be the defensive coordinator on Arizona that doesn't have any good players? Or do they want to keep their kids in school and live in the same neighborhood for 10 years and maybe make a few dollars less but have immense job security?
Right.
What would you guys rather do? You know, I mean, in whatever your job is, do you want to go to Seattle for I'm not saying Seattle's a bad organization, but if you work for Apple and you're in the computer field, do you want to go to a lesser organization, someone that has lesser players, and see what you can do? Or are you pretty happy in your hometown where you're at, or you know, wherever you live right now?
Because a lot of times
moving stinks.
A lot of times with that interview process happens because the coach's agent, and they all have agents now, folks,
which is important, right?
Puts the feelers out there.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, my guy's interested in this, or my guy's interested in that. And if he's happy where he's at, the agent doesn't put out any feelers.
Yeah, I'm like, you want me to try to get you a DC job for probably not going to be the best defensive staff or you know talent in the league because that guy didn't get fired.
Well, let's say you can get you a coordinator job or you know this job or that job, and you'll be moving to New York. And well, New York, it's a pay raise, but is it?
Perfect
because
example.
It's going to cost you an extra $100,000 a year to live in New York, to live in New Jersey, New York area.
Perfect example. When I was at Pitt with Walt Harris, shortly after I left for Akron, he got hired to be Stanford's head coach, and he wanted to take most or all of his staff with him. And people like the running back coach said, "I can't afford to go, coach." Right. Like, I'm losing money.
Yeah.
Stanford's expensive compared to Pittsburgh. You know, it's a huge difference. Just like real people's jobs.
Yeah.
You know, we're not talking about millionaires.
These are real people that are making
sometimes under 6 figures. You know, a lot of them under 6 figures. You know, running back coach for Akron didn't make 6 figures. I didn't make 6 figures at Akron. Right.
Yeah.
Trust me. Not even close.
Sometimes not 5 figures.
Right. I tell this story all the time. I mean, when we got hired at Akron, we hired Duke's recently or just fired defensive coordinator and North Carolina's just fired offensive coordinator. They sold these tiny little houses in Chapel Hill and Duke and bought big-ass houses in Akron. They're like, this is all right.
Yeah. That's all part of it.
It's part of it, right.
It's all a big part of it. But anyways, let's get to a break. That's going to do it for hour number 1 of The Drive. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with hour number 2 right after this. And welcome back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, except no imitations. And it is now time for here kicking off hour number 2 to do our DFS lineup for the divisional round of the playoffs.
Okay.
This is going to be interesting here. 4 games.
What's the latest weather in Buffalo?
I
think that's the only one we're concerned.
It's going to be cold.
I know that.
It's going to be the coldest game that Lamar has ever played in.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So it's going to be even colder than it was last weekend, which was pretty cold.
But we're not expecting 7 feet of snow.
I don't think so. Yeah. Okay. I don't think anything like that.
Okay. So
All
we
right.
don't have to shy away from those guys.
No. So defensively, the Chiefs are 3,600. Eagles are 3,400. Lions are 3,200. The Bills are 3,000. The Ravens are 2,900, even though they're favored to win that game.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
I think they're expecting a lot of points.
The Rams are 2,700. The Texans are 2,500. And the Commanders are 2,300.
Those bottom 3 don't really interest me. Who do you like?
Yeah.
I know. They're all good. I mean, none of these
at
are
this
going to be
point, you're not
low-scoring
going
games, right? Should we do that last?
I guess the team that I like the best might be the Eagles.
Eagles and Lions are my 2 faves.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're going to have shutouts.
No.
By any stretch. Anzalone's playing. Lions defense is a little healthier than it's been. Bye week, that kind of stuff. Eagles don't have Dean. I think the Rams offense is good, but it's a good defense. I don't think the Rams
at home
40 for them. Right.
And that there could be some snow in that game.
There could be snow in that game.
Yeah, so I think that kind of affects maybe the Rams' passing game a little bit. If I had to pick one, I'd say the Eagles.
Which was more expensive again, the Lions or Eagles?
The Eagles were 3,400. The Lions are 3,200.
Yeah, about the same.
Yeah.
Let's put Philly in. I don't love either.
No, I mean, they're all good matchups at this point.
I do think Kansas City should be the most expensive.
At tight end, Kelsey is 5,000.
Well rested.
Well rested. Andrews is 4,500. Laporta, 4,200. Zach Ertz, 4,000. Dallas Goedert is 3,900, but he's questionable.
I thought he was good to go. Okay.
Dalton Kincaid, 3,700. Isaiah Likely, 3,500. Tyler Higbee, 3,400. Dalton Schultz, 3,300. KC is 29th against opposing tight ends.
Interesting.
Noah Gray, 3,000.
Are we worried about Goddard? That's the first I heard he's questionable.
Yeah. He hasn't practiced. It was an illness.
It was an illness.
Yeah.
That's why I brushed it off. Okay.
But he returned to practice today. But we know that illness, what's been going around, has been a pretty serious bug. It's not just a one-day illness kind of thing.
Folks, I'm not making excuses, but there were some ill Steelers in that Ravens game.
Yeah,
and
it
affected
showed.
Their play.
It showed.
Yeah.
I actually kind of like Likely.
I was going to go big and go Kelsey.
I understand that.
I think their corners will do okay against the Chiefs receivers, and Kelsey with Taylor Swift in the house and middle of the field being pretty open on 3 weeks rest.
I mean, that's only 5,000.
Now, I say it wasn't insanely expensive.
Yeah.
But I like Likely as a player.
I just think
he'll play a lot.
He's going to play a lot.
Yep.
They're not going to have Zay Flowers again this weekend.
No, they won't.
And so Likely's going to be on the field constantly.
Let's do that, and if we end up with a lot of extra money, we can put Kelsey in.
Pivot upwards, or we put Kelsey in the flex even.
Yeah.
It's a $5,000 flex. That's not
bad.
bad.
Have many guys to pick from as usual.
Yeah.
Of course.
Okay, quarterback. Lamar is 7,800. Josh Allen is 7,700. Jaden Daniels is 7,000. Jalen Hurts is 6,800. Goff is 6,300. Patrick Mahomes is 6,000. Matthew Stafford 5,200, and Stroud is 5,000.
I think I'd go cheap, but not Stroud.
Mahomes at 6,000 is
pretty darn cheap.
Holy mackerel! Are you kidding me?
Right. I mean, all the stuff applies we just said about Kelsey. Super well rested.
That would be a nice stack. I also kind of like Jaden Daniels at 7,000 because I think he's just going to run like crazy.
I think they're going to get beat pretty bad, but that doesn't matter necessarily.
Yeah, he might have 100 rushing yards, but so might Mahomes might approach that. He's going to have to run away from that pass
I think
rush.
Mahomes is my favorite, too.
Yeah, he may be really chalky at 6,000, but okay.
Yeah.
Running backs, Saquon, 8,200. Derrick Henry, 8,000. You got to pay up big time for those guys.
Yeah.
Jahmyr Gibbs, 7,700. Kyron Williams, 6,900. James Cook, 6,700. Joe Mixon, 6,500. Looks like he's going to play.
Yeah, they just announced that like a second ago.
David Montgomery, 5,700.
I think they want to get him in the end zone.
Isaiah Pacheco is 5,500. Brian Robinson, 5,300. Austin Eckler, 5,100. You can get Kareem Hunt for 5,000. You can get Justice Hill for 4,800. Kenneth Gainwell for 4,700. Ty Johnson for 4,500.
They love him.
They love him. And I don't know if he'd go with any of these other guys. Ray Davis is 4,000, but he's questionable.
There were some not crazy expensive ones.
I think first of all, I think Derrick Henry might go crazy in this game.
His playoff stats are
bonkers.
And in the league that I pick, guys, I'm burning him this week because you might not get him, and I think he goes crazy in this game. I would gladly pay up for him. Where would him and Montgomery sit us in terms of?
Well, Henry's about $1,900 over budget, and Montgomery is
he's gonna be a little under.
About $400 under.
I don't have a problem with it. They seem touchdowns for those guys.
Yeah. That leaves us $5,850 to spend on our finals. But you want to put Kelsey in the flex now?
Yeah, with Mahomes, yes.
That's a nice cheap one. That gets us up to now. We can average 61.33 for
three receivers.
For 3 receivers, that's nice.
Okay, I love that.
Kelsey at $5,000. Come on,
he's gonna catch balls. The rest, I think, is so big for him.
Yeah, the receivers aren't quite as expensive. Nico Collins is 7,600. Puka Nacua 7,400. Amon-Ra St. Brown 7,200. AJ Brown is 7,000. Terry McLaurin 6,300.
I think Amon-Ra is my favorite of the expensive ones.
Jamison Williams, 6,100. Flowers is 5,900, but he's not going to play. Devontae Smith is 5,600. Cooper Kupp, 5,400. Xavier Worthy, 5,200. Khalil Shakir is 5,000. Rashad Bateman, 4,900.
It's pretty cheap for a guy who's going to be on the field all the time.
Hopkins.
I thought Shakir was cheap, too.
Yeah, Hopkins is 4,700.
I think he's going to get Stingley.
Yeah.
A lot.
Amari Cooper, 4,400.
Hard to trust, but cheap.
Zacchaeus, 4,300.
It's kind of been impressive.
Yeah, looking at Zacchaeus' his game log here, he's gotten.
I think he's pretty clearly the 2.
Well,
Denami Brown had a good game recently.
4.9 points the last time out in the playoff game. 7.1, 23.3, 24, and 6.6. So that's why he's as cheap as he is. Hollywood Brown.
He's healthy now too, and
yeah, he is just 4,200.
He was cheaper than Zacchaeus.
Yeah, how about that?
I don't mind going cheap on him.
That allows us to pay up for a couple of studs.
Yeah,
and he might be their number. We got 2 guys. We got Mahomes. We're going to stack him with Kelsey, and
those Chiefs receivers are kind of all the same to me.
Yeah,
that's why I want the cheapest one.
Yeah, that's not bad. Now we can average 7,100. So we can get 2 big dogs. We could go Nico Collins and Terry McLaurin if we wanted.
You like St. Brown?
I like St. Brown.
Yeah.
All right, let's plug St. Brown in. That leaves us 7,000. That would also get us A.J. Brown or McLaurin or Javonte Williams. A.J. Brown on the nose. $7,000. He only got 1 catch last week.
It's like Witherspoon and those guys. I'm fine with that.
Witherspoon might not even play.
I was saying, they're all their corners are kind of the same.
They ignored him so much last week that he was reading a book on the sideline. You think they're going to ignore him 2 weeks in a row?
There's been 2 or 3 times this year he's been the squeaky wheel and comes back monstrous.
I like that.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
St. Brown and Amon-Ra.
Everybody's going to have a star-studded lineup in the playoffs.
Yeah,
you got to have some that you pay down for. Our pay down is Hollywood Brown and Isaiah Likely at the tight end spot, but we still ended up with Kelsey.
We have a very Brown receiving core.
We do. A lot of Browns, 3 of them.
Yep.
Let me just check the flexes here to see who else will be available other than I'm going to guess we're going to love Kelsey there. But that gets you Kareem Hunt, Khalil Shakir, Kelsey, Rashad Bateman, Justice Hill.
They're not even close.
Not even close.
I don't know why he's the same price as those guys.
That doesn't make any sense.
I mean, he's going to score.
Yeah.
I mean, might do ring around the Rosie and run one in or a shovel pass or something goofy, but I'll bet everything I have.
He might throw a touchdown pass.
Yeah, I bet he scores.
Yeah.
I think they win that one big.
Yeah, I do too. I think.
So what's our? I like it.
So what we have is Patrick Mahomes at the quarterback position.
Okay. Little hookup with his
$6,000. Derrick Henry at $8,000. David Montgomery at $5,700. Like that.
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood Brown at $4,200. Amon-Ra St. Brown at $7,200. And A.J. Brown at $7,000.
It's a very Brown receiving core.
At the wide receiver position. Isaiah Likely at tight end. Travis Kelce in the flex. And the Eagles defense.
Likely allows us to do these things, but he's our wild card. You know, like
if we had Likely, again, I could flip flop Kelce and Likely, and we could look at the $3,500 flex plays, and we wouldn't like them.
Good point. I see what you're saying. I'm not saying pull him out.
No, I'm just saying if people were looking at that,
if he hits, I love where we're at.
I mean, he had
if he happens to score.
What he had, like 3 for 45 last week against the Steelers. If he does that,
I'd say that's what's even Steven on him. 3 for 45-ish, probably a little less.
He's averaging 8 points per game this year. If he gets us anything close to that 8 points,
he'll play a lot.
Yeah,
and there's going to be points in that game.
Yeah,
I mean, they're not going to run
every time.
Yeah, 80% of the snaps.
Yeah,
right. No, I'm cool with it. I'm not saying pull him out, but he's our wild card too.
Okay, all right. I'm going to lock it in.
Okay,
it is locked and loaded.
Cool.
Well, taking its time. There it goes.
Boom, locked and loaded.
Bingo. So that's our DFS lineup for the opening round of the playoffs. It starts to get a little interesting from here on out because next week there'll only be 2 games.
Yeah, right.
So
fun.
Yeah. But that's what we got this week. Mahomes at quarterback, Derrick Henry and David Montgomery at running back. The Browns, A.J. Hollywood and Amon-Ra St. Brown at the wide receiver position. You got Isaiah Likely and Travis Kelce in the tight end and flex spots and in the Eagles defense. Did you know that St. Brown isn't actually his last name? His dad changed that.
Yeah,
they were Brown.
I did see something.
They were Brown, and he wanted them to all have these.
His dad's a bodybuilder and an odd dude.
He said, St. Brown will look much better on the back of their uniform. So he changed.
Aquanemius.
Yeah,
and,
So he changed their last name from Brown to St. Brown.
Yeah, there's some cool documentaries about those dudes, but they work hard. Let's just say
they're an interesting family.
Dad's an interesting dude.
Yeah, absolutely. But. Well, that's what our DFS lineup is for the week. Let's get to a break. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And welcome back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and this is The Drive. And, of course, you can hear The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network every Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. right here on these very airwaves. You can also download the Steelers mobile app and get it there, and you can watch our show and listen to it on YouTube. You can also leave us comments there. And, well, Matt, there were a lot of people left comments on the YouTube channel today saying, we don't need you anymore.
Oh, really?
No, I'm just kidding. Everybody was hopeful that everything was okay in Matt's world.
Yeah, things are fine.
Yeah.
We'll be good.
All right, so
that's why you guys take a day off.
Yeah,
for the fam.
I'm on the 33rd team here, and we've got Kyle Crabb's updated.
Yeah, I saw that. I haven't looked at it yet.
The updated pre-Senior Bowl big board, his top 100 rankings heading into the Senior Bowl.
He does Locked on Dolphins. I've been with him a bunch.
So his number one guy coming into the Senior Bowl, and he won't be there, is Travis Hunter out of Colorado. Number 2 is Will Johnson, the cornerback out of Michigan. So 2 cornerbacks at the top. Ashton Genty is number 3.
Yeah, he's a tremendous player. I mean, this isn't position value or anything. It's how good you what you do.
The players, yeah.
Yep.
Number 4 is Abdul Carter, the linebacker out of Penn State.
Very impressive.
Number 5, Mason Graham, the defensive lineman from Michigan.
A lot of defensive players here.
6 is Malachi Starks, a safety from Georgia.
Do it all type.
7, Siobhan Ravel, the cornerback from East Carolina.
That's the highest I've seen him, though.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone has him in the first round, but that's really high.
He is huge.
He's huge.
Like, he might make Joey Porter look small.
People will probably look at mocks and things, but he'll be mocked to the Steelers a fair amount.
Yeah. Coming off an ACL.
Yeah, people are probably, I'm sure people are like, who's this guy? Small school, blah, blah. No, you might be real happy with
Yeah. 8 is Josh Simmons, the offensive tackle from Ohio State.
Also an injury.
The first true, well, Gency was up there as well. 9 is Will Campbell, the offensive lineman from LSU.
maybe a guard.
10 is Xavier Watts, a safety from Notre Dame.
That's high.
He's a true center fielder. He takes the ball away.
Wow.
Takes the ball away a lot.
Light, though. Okay. Obviously, these playing on
doesn't
Monday.
play any slot, though. I've looked into that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So
he's just a
he's
true
not
center.
what the Steelers need.
A true center fielder.
Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully he gets picked before 21.
Did I mention he takes the ball away?
Yeah.
He does that a lot. 11 through 20, Jalen Walker, the linebacker from Georgia. Josh Connerly, offensive tackle from Oregon. Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle from Michigan. James Pierce, the edge rusher from Tennessee. Tedder Taria McMillan, the wide receiver.
That's pretty late. First receiver. Unless you count Hunter.
Yeah. Michael Williams, the edge rusher out of Georgia. Shamar Stewart, the defensive tackle from Texas A&M. He plays both.
I'd say, what would he do for the Steelers?
He'd be a 3-4 end.
You think he's what weight are we guessing on him right now?
290-ish.
He's that heavy already?
Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking he was 280. That would worry me a little, but okay.
18, Cam Ward, quarterback Miami.
Quarterback, yeah.
19, Shedeur Sanders, quarterback from Colorado.
They're both going to be long gone before 21, but
they're quarterbacks.
Yeah, they're going to be so overdrafted.
20, Donovan Ezeriku, I should say, the edge rusher from Boston College.
That's pretty high for him, too.
He's a good
Kyle's
player,
being
though.
aggressive on these dudes.
21, Kelvin Banks Jr., the offensive tackle from Texas. 22, Tyler Warren, the tight end from Penn State.
Playmaker, yeah. People are familiar with him around here.
23, Landon Jackson, the edge rusher from Arkansas. He'll be at the Senior Bowl.
He'll be at the Senior Bowl, yeah. He's a condor.
24, Tyler Booker, the guard from Alabama.
He's probably the first interior guy off the board, yeah.
The BC guy will be at the Senior Bowl as well. 25, Mike Green, the edge rusher out of Marshall. He'll be at
also
the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
26, Derek Harmon, the defensive lineman, from Oregon.
Does he interest you? I don't think he interests me at 21, but I mean, he's kind of the DeForest Buckner, Oregon type long arm dude, you know.
Yeah, his production at Michigan State wasn't as good as it was at Oregon, but he had better players around him in Oregon. So you wonder, is it the player or was it the system? Was it because he had all these good guys around him? It's the same question you ask yourself about the Bama guys.
Yeah, and I watched one of his playoff games and wasn't blown away with him. I just think it wasn't his best day. You know, that's not fair. That's why you watch 4+ games, you know. 27, Nick Scourton, the edge rusher out of Texas A&M. He'll be at the Senior Bowl. Good football player, yeah.
28, Armand Membu, the offensive lineman from Missouri, or is it Membao?
I don't know, but he seems to be moving up boards rapidly.
29, Quinshawn Judkins from Ohio State.
That's early.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm shocked that he's number 2. Now, I will say, every list you looked at a year ago in the summer scouting had those two either 1 and 2 or 2 and 1.
He's a good player.
Him and Genty, yeah.
30, Matthew Golden, the wide receiver from Texas.
I like him too.
I like him.
I'm excited to get an official height and weight on him.
Yeah, they list him at like 6'1", 190, something like that.
I'm guessing he's shorter than that.
Yeah.
He could be in the mix in the middle.
Does a lot.
One, yeah.
31, Luther Burden, the wide receiver from Missouri.
Had a down year, but he was 1 and 2 with the Arizona dude.
They used him more as a decoy this year, which was interesting. 32, Emeka Egbuka, I should say, from Ohio State. 33, Jahad Barron, or Jahdae Barron, I should say, from the cornerback from Texas.
Corner from Texas, yeah.
He's slot capable.
I think he does both, right? Yeah.
That would be interesting to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if I'm using 21, but maybe you trade back to 28 or move up in the second round. Who knows?
34 is Walter Nolan from Mississippi.
Very intriguing, moldable piece of clay.
Yeah. Carson Swessinger, the linebacker from UCLA at 75 or 35. 36 is Colston Loveland, the tight end from Michigan. 37 is Jack Sawyer, the edge rusher from Ohio State.
Quality player, yeah.
38, Benjamin Morrison, the cornerback from Notre Dame.
Also coming off injury, but that might be a discount.
39, Andrew Mukuba, I should say, the safety from Texas. 40, Jihad Campbell, the linebacker from Alabama.
Also, okay.
41, Nick Emiwari, the safety from South Carolina. 42 is Alfred Collins, the big defensive tackle from Texas.
40, he's not a nose, though, is he?
He can play some nose.
Okay, he's kind of Benton-ish, right?
Yeah. 43 is Alec Ayemanor, from the wide receiver from Stanford. he will block.
Yeah, I say he would fit in.
He gets after it.
What pick you'd use on him, probably if you use a second rounder, but he would fit in.
44, Gunnar Helm, the tight end from Texas. So 3 tight ends in the top 44.
No, that's a good new tight end class.
45, Trey Amos, the cornerback from Mississippi. 46 is Danny Stutzman, the linebacker from Oklahoma. 47, Darian Porter, cornerback from Iowa State. 48, Tyleek Williams, defensive lineman from Ohio State. Then
he is a nose.
Yeah.
You might get a discount on him.
You might because of that
right.
ability. And 49 is Trey Harris, the wide receiver from Mississippi.
Also intriguing.
Yeah. Jared Ivey, the defensive lineman from Mississippi, is at 50.
I don't know much about him.
I don't know much about him either. I got to do some homework on him. 51 is Tate Ratledge, the offensive lineman from Georgia. Another tight end, Harold Fannin Jr. from Bowling Green at 52.
Receiver.
Yeah. TJ Sanders. And that's the thing while we're on the tight end position.
Yeah.
Think of your receivers as or your tight ends, of some of these tight ends as a big slot.
Exactly.
Because that's what they are.
Gesicki's a big slot. Pitts is a big slot.
Yeah.
Kelsey's a big slot.
He's a big slot.
Yeah.
They don't ask him to block anybody necessarily.
Not much, right?
Yeah. TJ Sanders, defensive lineman from South Carolina at 53. Princely,
this guy again.
Umanamalin, edge rusher from Mississippi. Omarion Hampton, the running back from North Carolina, next up at 55.
You got him second round from what a little birdie told me yesterday.
Did.
Yeah.
Who else haven't we gotten here to yet on Kyle's list?
He's the first round pick.
I guess it's my first round pick. He's not been mentioned yet.
If you can get Hampton with like the 60th overall pick, come on, man.
Yeah.
All right.
Ashton Gillott, edge rusher out of Louisville. Ariante Ursary, the offensive tackle out of Minnesota. And then at 58, you got Maxwell Hairston, the cornerback out of Kentucky, I think.
Mm-hmm. He's been mocked this year a couple times. We've done these.
Omar Norton Lott, the defensive lineman from Tennessee at 59. And Demetrius Knight Jr. at 60, linebacker from South Carolina. At 61 is JT Tuimoloau, the edge rusher from Ohio State. Mm-hmm. You got 62, Barrett Carter, linebacker from Clemson. 63, Isaiah Bond, the wide receiver from Texas.
Smaller, but he can fly.
64, Mason Taylor, the tight end out of LSU. This might be a really good tight end class.
So you might have to
I haven't looked into that much at all, but
if you're not going, I'm sure you're not going to spend much in free agency on tight end.
And you shouldn't.
No, but third or fourth round, after you've knocked out a couple needs, a little luxury pick that can get downfield.
If somebody falls, and not everybody's going to be taking these tight ends. 65 is Marcus Mabau, the offensive lineman from Purdue. 66 is Caleb Johnson, the running back from Iowa.
Get him that late.
That's really low on him.
Again, like Genty would be great, and I don't think he's going to last at 21. But man, just give me whoever's the best one in the third round. You're going to be pretty happy with the.
Here's the thing, and people go, he shouldn't be that low.
He might go later than that.
He's a good player. He's a running back.
Yeah.
They get pushed down a little bit. There's a lot of good big bodies when you start looking at all the defensive linemen and offensive linemen.
Right, that are hard to find.
Right.
So those guys get teams looking for D linemen. Absolutely.
67 is Xavier Restrepo, wide receiver from Miami. I'm interested to see him at the Senior Bowl.
Me too, yeah.
68, Jalen Milroe, quarterback from Alabama.
Third quarterback for him?
Third quarterback all the way down at 68.
He was your first-round pick yesterday, and I
had no problem doing it.
How did you preface it? I have not watched the show. Did the Steelers have a quarterback at that point, or?
Well, I mean, they had a quarterback.
Yeah, a quarterback, but that wouldn't.
That doesn't stop me from taking Jalen Milroe for the future.
If I had Fields or Wilson, I would strongly consider Milroe.
Yeah, I just think you take a swing at the fences there with that guy. 69, Kyle Kennard, the edge rusher out of South Carolina. And 70, Jordan Birch, the defensive lineman from Oregon.
Okay. The other D lineman.
The other D lineman, yeah. At 71, Zy Alexander, cornerback from LSU. 72 is Josiah Stewart, the edge rusher out of Michigan. 73 is Shamar Turner, the three defensive linemen from Texas A&M, and all three of them will be at the Senior Bowl.
Pretty high picks, yeah.
74 is Braden Swinson, edge rusher from LSU. 75 is Azareye'h Thomas, the cornerback from Florida State. That was my third-round pick yesterday.
Okay. Bigger guy?
He's got good size, like 5'11".
Okay. He's not a true slot or anything.
76, Cameron Williams, offensive tackle from Texas. 77 is Chase Lunt, offensive tackle from Connecticut.
There's a couple of these tackles that are
smaller school guys,
that you could kind of redshirt or swing. Maybe someone moves to guard.
Yeah.
You get late day two guys.
Charles Grant, offensive tackle from William and Mary at 78.
That's another, yeah.
Jacob Parris at 79, the cornerback from K-State.
Okay.
At 80, Jack Beck, the wide receiver from TCU. He'll block as well.
Yeah, so
he gets after it
too, right? Especially if you signed one and then drafted him or something like that. Like, I'm not sure he's the answer to your receiver needs.
No,
but,
yeah,
alone.
81, Jalen Royals, wide receiver out of Utah State. I like him a lot.
So he's also interested. Is he a Senior Bowl?
I think.
I don't remember.
I don't remember if he is or not. I know he was coming off an injury.
Okay.
82, Jonas Ivanea, offensive lineman from Arizona. 83 is Wyatt Millum, offensive lineman from West Virginia.
For him, yeah.
Yeah. 84, Kevin Winston Sr., safety from Penn State. 85, Elijah Arrojo, I should say, tight end from Miami, another tight end.
A lot of tight ends.
86 is Gray Zabel, offensive tackle from North Dakota State.
He's intriguing too.
87, Jackson Dart, the quarterback from Mississippi. That's your fourth quarterback. 88, Savion Williams, wide receiver from TCU.
I don't know much about him.
89, Travion Henderson, running back from Ohio State.
I don't think he's what they need, but he's not the 99th best player. I mean, he's a good football player.
89th, but yeah.
Okay,
90, Chris Paul Jr., linebacker from Mississippi.
Getting into guys I don't know a ton about.
91, I like this guy a lot. He's going to be at the Senior Bowl, and I can't wait to see him. Ty Robinson, defensive lineman from Nebraska.
He ended up on your team yesterday,
He
too,
is way big enough to ride, 6'6", 310 pounds.
Yeah.
He looks
sort
like
of developmental, huh?
Looks like had 6 sacks this year. He just goes and wrecks things.
Okay.
He's the bouncer in the bar.
Good fit.
92, Latham Ransom, the safety from Ohio State. 93, Anthony Belton, offensive tackle from NC State. Pat Bryan, wide receiver from Illinois at 94. At 95 is Tyler Batty, the edge rusher from BYU. Tez Johnson, the wide receiver from Oregon, is at 96. Cam Skatteboo is the running back from Arizona State. He's at 97. Deion Walker, nose tackle from Kentucky, at 98.
Wow, he had a lot of first-round buzz not long ago.
Yeah. Ajani Cornelius, offensive tackle from Oregon, at 99. And Jeffrey Bassa, linebacker from Oregon, at 100.
Like, these lists are great just to hear the names sometimes for the first. I'm sure a lot of our listeners haven't heard half these names for the first time. But I got a kick out of, like, just all the tackles from 60 to 90. I didn't think it was as strong on round 3 tackles, and one or two of those guys will test super well and maybe even sneak in the end of the first round.
Some teams will look at him. No, he's going to have to kick in the guard. He might go a little bit later than that.
That was my next thing to say. How many of those tackles are guards?
But these are things that they're going to learn at the Senior Bowl, at least start to learn.
100%.
You get a chance to get hands on these guys and see how they perform.
One-on-one against these edge guys. That kind of stuff goes a long way.
It's going to be a fun weekend. A lot of these guys that were on that top 100 list are going to be there.
It's a pretty loaded class.
Yeah.
Or a pretty loaded game.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. We'll see how that changes coming out of the Senior Bowl. Some of these guys are going to move up. Some are going to move down.
Really blow your doors off. Yeah.
That top part of the draft, though, is probably not going to change a whole lot because none of those guys are there.
Yeah.
But some of those other guys could start pushing themselves up.
I'm not blown away by the top of this draft, but I am warming up to day 2 a lot.
Yeah, the middle, that always seems to be the case.
Mm-hmm.
We always like the middle more than maybe the top round guys.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe it's a trade down year. You get a bunch of day 2 stuff. I don't know. I don't have my strategy by any stretch.
We say that every year.
I know. It's always appealing.
I'd like to have 6 of those guys as opposed to one of those.
The Bentons and Porters that would go in day 2.
But you need somebody to want to trade up to get that somebody has to get. That's
and who knows? They might be really active in free agency and just need a corner, or maybe you're even trading up. Who knows?
And then you're just building depth.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, that was Kyle Crabb's list there.
Kyle does good work.
On the 33rd team of the latest top 100 rankings heading into the Senior Bowl in another week and a half or so.
Yeah, right around the corner.
Yeah, two Mondays from now we'll be down there.
Yeah,
so can't wait for that. But he is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. When we come back, we will preview the divisional playoff games right after this. Welcome back. I'm Dale Lolley, and he is the Matt Williamson. And, well, it's Matt. It's time to look at the divisional playoff games here that are going to take place starting Saturday. First game is at 4:30, that being the number 4 seeded Texans at the number 1 seeded Chiefs. Kansas City favored by 8. The over-under 41.5 in that game. That line has gone up.
Has it?
Yeah, it was like 6.5 earlier in the week, and it's just continued to climb. And Chiefs don't blow a lot of teams out like that, but they down the stretch they kind of started to.
That's exactly where I was going with it. Is if this was week 12, I'd be like, that line's too big. They don't win by that much. I think they're starting to win by that much. Chris Jones with like a month off. Kelsey with 3 weeks off. Super healthy. Andy Reid off a bye. There's a couple things not much, but the edge guys versus those tackles.
It's a problem.
And even if Tooney goes to left tackle, then left guard's a problem against a pretty good group, just a D-line in general. I don't love that. I think Stingley will probably erase pretty much whoever he's on, but all their receivers are the same, and he can only cover one dude. Maybe Stroud, Nico, et cetera, are turning the corner, but he doesn't deal with. They don't pick up interior pressure well, and I'm sure Spagnuolo is going to light them up. I kind of think the Chiefs blow them out.
I do too.
Yeah.
Again, 8 points. It's a good number, but I think the Chiefs win that one. I don't know, 27-14, 27-13, something like that.
Joking on the sidelines at the end, to be honest with you. Yeah.
I think they have their way with them. Rested and ready. At
Walking
8 o'clock.
into KC right now is not pleasant.
No. You got the 6-seeded Commanders at the number 1 seeded Lions, 8 o'clock Saturday night. Detroit favored by 9, the over-under 55.5.
This is another one I feel kind of the same. I mean, their bye week was week 5, the earliest one you can have. Anzalone and all these guys are starting to trickle back. I think that just all of them needed the collective rest. There's some Goff and some of these dudes are probably feeling it. And they do blow people out.
Yeah.
And Montgomery's back. Washington's a wonderful story. I said something earlier today, like, if they lose us by 40, Washington fans, you should stand up and give them a standing O, And I'm sure Daniels will make some plays. I just don't know how they stop the Lions.
Here's the thing. So the Commanders went for it, 3 or 4 times last week on 4th down?
Oh, they're going to fall into the trap again.
They're going to fall into that trap again.
Oh,
they shouldn't have done it last week against Tampa Bay.
I mean, the Vikings fell into the trap against the Lions, too. Like, they're all going to fall in the trap.
And if they had I texted out during the game, I tweeted out, I should say, during the game on the X Twitter, when they passed, they failed on the first 2 in field goal range.
Well, then you got to go for it on the next one.
Now you have to go for it. Had they just kicked the field goals all 3 times, because they finally scored on the 3rd one that they scored a touchdown on the 3rd one that they went for it on 4th down. People say, see, that's why you do it. I'm like, they're still down 2 points.
Well,
they're minus 2 points on going for it in those situations.
You also took the variable out of it. Now you have to.
Right.
All right, you got one, but so you end up with 7 instead of 9.
Yeah, you could have had 9 instead. You had 7. You would have been leading the game instead of needing the Baker Mayfield fumble.
And then you're in control of your decisions and stuff too. And maybe you still go for it maybe you kick 2 field goals and you decide to go for it because you figured things out or whatever. But you lost a lot of your freedom.
Yeah, you've had that decision made for you by your early decision to go for it.
Wonderful year by Washington, but I think you're walking into a wrecking ball situation here.
They just don't have. They're a team that doesn't have the weapons to compete with that.
Yeah, they don't have enough.
Yeah,
in that building, I mean, Lions fans don't get to host a lot of playoff games.
Really, I mean, if you look at it, player for player, the Steelers have better weapons outside of the quarterback position than Washington.
Agreed. McLaurin's really good.
McLaurin's good.
And then it's a drop.
Yeah, after that, it's like, ugh.
Yeah, their first-round pick could be a receiver.
Yeah.
I mean, they need a handful of things.
I mean, would I rather have Freiermuth or would I rather have Ertz? Well, I think I'd take Freiermuth.
Especially mixed Darnell Washington in the mix.
Would I rather have the Steelers running backs than their running backs? Absolutely.
I don't know about O-line. Washington's O-line had a better year, but I'm not sure I would trade all those players out, though.
Right, that too. Escapability and
I don't know that I would swap out all the Steelers young guys for their dudes, though, that aren't all that talented.
Yeah. So,
especially
I think the Lions win that, I don't know, 38-20 or something like that.
Yeah, maybe even worse.
Yeah.
I'll definitely lay the points in both those games.
Yeah, getting to the over-under is the one that you're like, okay, how are they getting there? That's a huge over. 55 and a half in a playoff game?
I think a bye this time of year is so valuable, too.
Yeah. Moving on to Sunday's games. You got the 4-seeded Rams at the 2nd-seeded Eagles. Philadelphia favored by 6. The over-under 43 and a half.
It's a little too big a number for me. I'm going to take the Eagles to win. Of course, everyone thinks Ravens-Bills is going to be the best game of the weekend, and it probably will be. I think this one might rival it, though, as 24-23, 23-21, Stafford throwing dig routes over the middle to Puka and ripping apart, But I also think Rams back 7.
It's going to be troublesome.
It's going to be. That's why we picked A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
And the Rams D-line isn't a fluke.
Not against that offensive line.
I think they can neutralize it, though, So I do think there's a coach quarterback advantage for the Rams, and that's why I'm definitely taking the points, but I think they fall short.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the Eagles win that one. I think it's a lower scoring game.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, so does Vegas.
Have we heard weather in Philly?
There's going to be, I think, some snow in the.
Is there?
Yeah. So I know that the Rams have Kyron Williams and he runs hard and all that.
Yeah,
I don't know that he's going to do that against the Eagles defense.
I'd be shocked.
Yeah,
and I'm sure Saquon will do. Saquon
will be just fine.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll do just fine.
Yeah, so I like the Eagles in that one. And you got the 3rd-seeded Ravens at the 2nd-seeded Bills. Baltimore favored by 1 on the road. The over/under 51 and a half. This is the first time in Bills history that they've been an underdog at home in a playoff game.
Yeah.
They didn't open as the underdog.
No,
they were favored by 1.5.
Right.
It's moved there.
Side note: part of me would love to see a Lions-Bills Super Bowl, so that one of the teams gets them, and those fan bases deserve it for 50 years of struggling. But I think they're going to lose this game.
It's a bad matchup for them.
I don't think it's a great matchup.
It's a bad matchup for them. They don't stop the run well.
They want to live in nickel. I think Henry might get, the player of the game, when it's all said and done. And I just think the Bills D is the weakest unit.
Yeah.
And if Lamar and Allen might throw the ball better in elements than Lamar, but I don't think they're going to suffer in that way. Flowers isn't going to play.
If the Bills are going to win this game, they have to win on special teams.
That'll go a long way.
And the Ravens' punt returners are still a problem.
I don't know if Tucker's good or not anymore. It's been a while.
Yeah.
They haven't asked anything of him
but
lately.
they muffed another punt last week against the Steelers. They were just fortunate that the ball was kicked so well that it was deep enough that it didn't matter. And then after that, they didn't even have their return guys trying to field the ball. They don't trust them.
I hadn't
just
thought
let
much
it
about
hit.
Special teams till you brought it up. But as soon as you did it, I was like, alarm bells went off. I'm like, that's definitely a path. I mean, Bass is a good kicker too.
Yeah.
And Steeler fans, if you want to break Harbaugh's heart, lose this game on special teams. He would lose his mind.
Yeah.
I mean, as a special teams background, they stress it a lot. It's possible. I mean, I'm not ruling the Bills out.
I'm just saying a turnover on special teams or something like that.
Yeah.
That would be huge for the Bills.
It would.
They can win this Josh Allen has to. He can't just be Superman. He's got to be Superman and Captain Marvel all wrapped into one. Nobody can. Thanos couldn't beat him. Nobody can beat him.
I don't think they'll run well.
Yeah.
Traditional runs up the middle, I don't think was going to go particularly well. Their weapons are good, not great, but he elevates them, of course. And he'll have to the nth degree in this one.
Yeah.
Because the Ravens are going to score.
Yeah, the Ravens are going to score.
The hardest offense to play.
I mean, I think they're going to come out with a game plan very similar to the way they beat the Steelers, and it's going to be big people and Lamar and Derrick Henry just running the ball like crazy.
Mm-hmm. And I would think their tight ends could do okay too.
Yeah,
so. I like the Ravens to win, and I think that's not a blowout or anything like that.
I think it's like 27-24, something like that.
I'm definitely laying the points. I mean, 1.5's not enough for me to go to the Bills.
Yeah, so
it's gonna be fun.
If that happens, if it happens the way we think, you'd have a 1 and a 2 seed in the NFC, and you'd have a 1 and a 3 seed in the AFC.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty good Final Four too.
Yeah,
you could definitely argue they're the 4 best teams right now, and Buffalo's right in it.
I can understand Lab's sentiment though that he does not want the Ravens to win the Super Bowl.
No, Be a heck of a tough path.
I will not be picking the Ravens if they do advance to go to Kansas City. Sorry, can't pick them out there. Lamar hasn't
given that much thought.
Lamar hasn't shown me that he can do that.
I'd have to see how both teams play, but this is an easier game than at Kansas City.
Yeah. Kansas City can actually. I mean,
that's the thing is they're better up the middle.
Yeah, their run defense is way better than Buffalo's.
Sell out to do it, and
yeah,
I trust Spags to get that right more than I do Bills D.
Yeah, we'll see if we get to that matchup, or if it's going to be Kansas City Bills or Houston. One of those.
Any
two
of
teams.
those quarterback matchups would be unbelievable.
Yeah,
we've seen Allen and Mahomes duel it out too, and boy, that's fun. And part of me would love to see Bills-Lions just for the fan bases, and one of them will actually get a Lombardi.
Yeah.
I still think the Eagles and Ravens are hard to beat.
They're hard to beat, but it can be done. They did lose games during the regular season. It's not like they were unbeatable.
Oh, yeah.
Like unbeatable is not beatable.
I'd have a hard time believing Washington or Houston.
Or unbeatable, I should say.
Advances here.
Yeah. I don't see that. I mean, I think they're just outclassed. I think there's clearly 6 teams that are better than everybody else.
Yeah, there's an elite group.
Yeah.
I would bet the Final Four has 4 of those 6.
Yeah. So that's where we're at. We'll see if we were right when we come back on Monday. But that's going to do it for our show today. So for my partner, Matt Williamson, glad to have him back today. I missed him yesterday. We spend so much time together. For Justin Miller here running the Justin Miller hotline and making sure that everything sounds great on the soundboard. And for Tyler Vittmeyer, making sure our video gets out there onto the YouTube. Check that out there. I am Dale Lolley. We thank you for listening to this edition of The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network.
Steelers football happens here. The Pittsburgh Steelers Audio Network.